And now, from Shenango Valley Studios, coming to you live, one of the most talked about shows in the Shenango Valley, because it's the only show in the Shenango Valley. Your host, Sean Zipai with The Zip Code. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And as always, thank you to you, my friend, Andrew Gary, for doing that sick track fade for us, my friend. Folks, we got a great show for you tonight. We have a social media icon, a social media blogger, award-winning social media blogger. And also, this guy is from the Shenango Valley, a graduate of Sharon High School. Thank you to Sheets, as always. Sheets run and done. Sheets run and done. There it is. Also, a big thank you to Lems, a company that was started in the Shenango Valley. Lems Shoes, an unbelievable boot. Wide toe box, the lightest boot you will ever find, and that actually may be a fact. That may be a fact. We'll have to ask our buddy Andrew Rademacher himself. But without further ado, let's bring in Dustin Stout, and let's figure out this thing. Here we go. Got a great show. I'm excited for this. Let's bring him on in here.
Hello.
There he is. Dustin Stout, the man, the myth, the legend.
Boom, in the house.
He is in the house, folks. I don't know if you know this or not, and you probably don't, because why would you? But this guy right here was one of my counselors at a church sports camp called Summer's Best 2 Weeks in Sharon, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Probably, Dustin, 20 years ago, man.
Jeez, shut up. That's too long.
20 years ago, and you
ago.
had the, I think you had some longer hair. You know, you
I
had
did.
some flow going.
I did. I had a bit of a Jesus hairdo. Not quite as good as yours, but I did at the time.
It might be time to get these locks cut eventually, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it was too much maintenance for me. I rocked the long hair for a few years, and then I was like, I got to cut it. It's too much to manage. And then I waited a couple years, and then I grew it out again, and then I cut it again. Right now I'm in this stage where I've needed a haircut for like 2 months, and I'm like, should I let it grow? Should I get a haircut? I don't know. We'll see.
Hey, eventually it'll lay or do it at once. But, those in-between stages are the weird part.
Yeah, I'm in the weird part right now.
Well. I think it looks fine. Not that you care what I think, but I'm in the stage where I'm just like, when I'm changing my sweatshirt or my shirt or something, like I'm grabbing my hair and it's just like pulling weird. It's just like that hurts.
Yeah, It does. It does.
So, folks, you are watching the Zip Code tonight. You're on the Zip Code with Dustin Stout. I'm going to call this guy a social media blogger icon. You're looking at him right here. We're going to get into a bunch of stuff. We're going to get into his life from Sharon, how he moved to California. We're going to get into a lot of social media stuff. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We will try to get to them as best we can, but we'll pick this guy's brain for a good 55 minutes or so. But Dustin, thanks for coming on the show, man. And let me start off with a banger here. And all the pictures and the videos that I've been seeing of you, everything is always a red V-neck shirt.
This very same one.
What's going on? What's going on with this here?
So there's two parts to it. Okay, the first part is when you are making decisions on a daily basis. As an entrepreneur, I own At this point, I only own 2 businesses. At one point, I owned 4 or 5 different businesses at once. And I had to make a lot of decisions during the day. And I read that a lot of high-level CEOs and people who are just, they got a lot going on throughout the day. One of the conscious decisions they made to sort of free up some mental bandwidth, so to speak, because you only have so much brain power you can exert in a single day, is they wore the same thing every single day. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, countless others. I can't remember who all it was in this article I read, but I was like, that makes a lot of sense. It's one less decision you have to make. You know exactly what you're going to wear. You just reach in. I've got a closet full of a couple dozen red V-neck shirts, so there's always one available. And I just pull one out, throw it on, I'm ready to go. Now, the second part of that, as a branding guy and as a social media personality, it's branding. So people know every time they see me, they notice the red shirt. So when I go to a conference and speak at a conference, I don't know if you've ever been to like a conference where you know people from social media and you're like, wait, is that them? I don't know. They kind of look like their profile picture, but they kind of don't. Every time I show up to an event, I look exactly like my profile picture. Every single time. I tend to not wear the glasses, so that makes it a little bit easier. So the branding aspect has been huge. Red's my favorite color. You go to my website, red's all over. But here's the secondary benefit of branding yourself with a certain wardrobe. I was going to my wife. She was dropping me off at the grocery store one day, right? I had to run in to the ATM, pull out some cash. We were on our way to a trip. So I run into the ATM, I pull out the cash, I run right back out, and here comes my wife driving right up the parking lot, straight towards me, right? Straight towards me. I look right at her. I'm like, okay, she's going to stop. I'm going to get in. We're going to roll. She drives right past me, keeps going. I had to run her down, and I was like, hey, I was looking right at you. Why didn't you stop for me? She goes, oh, no. I was looking for the red shirt. You're not wearing your red shirt today. So sideline benefit, you brand yourself with a wardrobe. Whenever you want to disappear, just wear something different. People have no idea who you are. It's like Superman. It's magical.
That's not a bad idea at all. When you want to vanish, you vanish. When you want to show up, you show up.
Yeah, exactly. That's why nobody knows who Superman is. He just changes his outfit.
Very true. So you're telling me right now in your closet, you have 12 to 14 of the same exact red V-neck t-shirts.
I definitely have more than a dozen. Over the last 10 years, I've accumulated many. In fact, I used to work for a t-shirt printer. And while I was working there, I fell in love with this brand of shirt. It's a next level tri-blend t-shirt. And so every year I just put in an order for a new dozen, just because I go through them quick and they start to wear out. So I order about a dozen. They're $5 a piece. So it's just give me a dozen of them.
Folks, you're watching The Zip Code with Dustin Stout, aka Dustpan. Hey, does anybody call you Dustpan anymore?
Only Janer Bestwick. Whenever he hits me up on Facebook Messenger.
Shout out to Janer Bestwick and the Bestwick family who have had a
impact he's here.
Impact on both of our lives. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Folks, we're gonna have some fun tonight. If you have any questions for this gentleman, feel free to type it in the chat. Hit the like button. Show us some love there with some hearts. But so let's go here, Dustin. Let's start with this. You're in high school. You're in a bunch of musicals, and you graduate from Sharon High School, and then do you immediately trek out to California?
Yeah.
What are you looking
really
for
clearly
there?
So I actually took the whole summer. I worked all summer, and I didn't have. I wasn't starting college right away, but I did get accepted to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. It's a long-established, very well-known in the industry acting school. I had to audition. I had to go to New York to audition, and they actually have a school in New York, but they also have a campus in Hollywood, California. And because I wanted to be more in the film industry rather than stage. I did love musicals and singing, dancing, all that fun stuff. But my real passion was always to just kind of be in TV and film, and primarily film. So I realized, well, if I go to New York, it's mostly stage, maybe some TV, but I really want to go to Hollywood, be in that atmosphere, be around the film industry. So Hollywood it was, worked all summer, jumped in my 95 Grand Prix GTP in October, I think, of 2003. And drove all the way out to California and moved in with my dad, who actually lived out there in California, or out here in California already. So, just started school in January 2004. Graduated the next year. It's a 2-year program. 2005 is technically when I graduated.
So tell me this: once you get out to the West Coast, you start school, you graduate from the school. Immediately, do you start just, hey, like maybe I can hop on an extra? Do you get an agent? Do you start thinking this could be, something big? I mean, how does that process work?
Yeah, I mean, the industry's brutal. It's the most competitive industry in the world. Everybody out there is, looking to find fame and fortune in the film industry and television. And, I just got really lucky. I happened to, at my church, I found one of the gals who was in our young adults group for college age and young adults. She was an agent. She'd been in the industry for years, and she was a talent agent that, we kind of became friends before I knew she was an agent, before I knew, or she knew I was an actor. We just, hit it off really well. And when we realized what we were doing, like professionally, she goes, "Oh, do you need an agent?" I was like, "Yes, I do." She goes, "You're signed." And that was pretty much it. The agent's job is to get you out on auditions and get you seen, get you in front of people. And did a lot of auditions, like I said, it's brutal. There's, as you can imagine, there are a lot of tall white guys out there as well, and much better looking than me. So it was a really hard season of life, really struggling to pay the bills, and waited a lot of tables. I was waiting tables while I was pursuing acting, and that eventually led to me not wanting to wait tables anymore and wanting to actually have money. So I took a part-time job at a local church, part-time job at a retail store, and before too long, I was kind of venturing my way into the realm of entrepreneurship and kind of caught the business ownership bug. And a lot happened there in those 5 years that I was really trying to figure out the acting thing. But yeah, it was rough. It was a lot of fun, but it really was. It's a rough business.
So I want to dig into the auditions just for 1 second before we move on here. What exactly happens when your agent says, "Hey, I mean, there could be a part maybe for you, might be a good fit"? I mean, what exactly happens? Do they automatically give you some something to read, like, "Hey, this is exactly your script. You're going to go on there on Tuesday and you're going to just read it"? Or what? Give me the exact process.
Yeah, so usually it happens very spur of the moment. You have, as an actor, the reason why most actors have waiting jobs is because it's usually easy to get your shift covered and go on an audition. There are many times where you'll have to go on an audition within a few hours, or the next day. Rarely do you get like a week's notice or more. So they will generally send you what they call sides, which is a portion of a script that you will be reading from in the audition. And you do what you can to try and not memorize it, but you want to get it, as down as possible. And once you walk into that audition room, you kind of want to have an idea of that character and be, ready to jump right into that character so you can give the best reading possible. The idea of for an actor is to walk in there and you want to show them immediately what they want to see from that character. You don't want to spend any time trying to figure it out in front of them. You want to have something ready to perform. And it can be really hard because you have to read the room, you have to kind of read the director, you have to try to read into the script, and you don't have the full script. So you don't understand the full spectrum of this character, what they did before. You usually don't have a bio, so you really got to kind of just do the best you can with what you have. And yeah, I like to think I did a good job in most cases, but like I said, it was rough.
So it's just fascinating to me because it seems like, some of these guys, that find acting later in life. I mean, is this just like, oh, they got lucky, an agent found them and said, hey, you should try out for this part, or you're the perfect fit, you're exactly what we're looking for, and they just get pulled off the street? I mean, is that basically a lot of these people's story that start acting at age 40 or 50 years old?
Yeah. Yeah, Morgan Freeman is one of them. He was in his 50s.
It's unbelievable. So after you kind of, I mean, I think everybody has a little bit of a breaking point, right? Where they realize, you know what, I'm going to pivot. I don't want to, like you said, I don't want to wait tables my whole entire life and kind of, be going to these tryouts, so to speak. And I'm ready to kind of move on a little bit. Not saying that you can't still dabble, and such, but so at that point, where do you immediately start looking for work?
Well, so I kind of started doing modeling a little bit because I had some friends who owned some clothing companies. And so I started doing some modeling for them and did a couple shows, did a couple of TV appearances. Ended up getting an acting gig that was like a PSA, public service announcement. And, I just remember like getting all these little small jobs and they weren't really well paying. And I was like, you know what, like, man, it's getting exhausting. And, at the time I had just met the love of my life, the woman who's now my wife. And I realized, like, I want to marry this woman, but I'm going to have to provide for her. So I need to get something like a real job and make sure that I can take care of her. So thankfully, God just kind of worked things out. Like I said, at one point I was working for a church in a retail store, and so that was right when we got married. And so in my head, I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to kind of work some real jobs for a while, maybe save up some money. And I already had the entrepreneurship bug. So I knew that, I'm going to develop a business someday, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I'm going to develop a business that's going to allow me to work when I want, how I want, where I want. And at that point, I can go back to acting and it'll be no problem. I could go on an audition at a moment's notice. And sorry, I was just getting a call. Did that interrupt? Oh, we're good.
Good.
Are you still there? Yes. So yeah, I kind of knew like there was a point, I was at a point where I felt okay sort of walking away from pursuing acting, knowing that at some, my stepdad and mom calling me probably to wish me happy birthday, which I bet you didn't know today was my birthday, did you?
Happy birthday, man.
Thank you. So yeah, all that to say, like it just kind of worked out. I had a full-time job offer. I knew I was going to build a business someday, and I knew I could put acting aside for a season or two until I have that ability and that freedom to sort of jump back into it with the financial stuff taken care of, so that I know my family's taken care of, and I know that I can sort of have my business run itself, with employees and staff. So yeah, that's kind of how it panned out.
Folks, you're watching the Zip Code. We're on with Dustin Stout. Thank you to Sheets. Dustin, when was the last time you had sheets, man?
Bro, it's been a minute. There's no sheets out here, man. Gosh, I think the last time I was even in Sharon was 2012. No, yeah, 2012, right after my first son was born.
Wow.
Yeah,
so
it's
about
been
9 years.
Almost 9 years. Jeez. Time is weird.
Also, thank you to Lem Shoes. Dustin, you do have to do this, man, for me. You do have to look up this company. Unbelievable company. The wide toe box on the shoes is what they pride themselves on, because the shoe actually takes the shape of the foot. So imagine that. We're not actually cramming our toes into some shoe that is not actually made for our feet. So you got to check that. Andrew Rademacher is on the show. He started the company out of his dad's like shop in Farrell, Pennsylvania, and then he moved out to Boulder, Colorado, and they have about 10 to 15 employees now. But you got to check them out sometime, man.
Yeah, I have unusually wide feet for a tall person. Not many people know this. I was actually born with what's called a fatty tumor on my right foot, and so my feet have always been a little bit wider, and I need wider shoes, so I'm definitely going to check them out.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. You got a little bit of a wide foot. Lem's shoes is the shoe for you. All right, so let's get into a little bit of social media. And folks, if you do have any questions, feel free to type it in the chat. I know I saw a comment earlier. Janer Bestwick thinks that Dustin will be a great glove model. But let's dig into a little bit of social media here. So I think I got Facebook. I'll never forget. I was walking out of church one time, and at the time, her name was Karen Zabo. She got married, but Karen Zabo, Donna Zabo at the time's little sister, she said, "Sean, do you have a Facebook?" in the church parking lot. And I was like, "I do not have a Facebook. I don't know what that is." And she said, "Oh, well, my sister invited me to join this thing called the Facebook." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's nice." And then later on, I think I was a sophomore in high school, and I had the Facebook. And so how in the world, because you're removed, right? I mean, you were in 2007, you were where at in life?
2007. I remember 2007 was the year that I joined Facebook. And it was really about 2 years before I got into social media. But being a high-level extrovert, I saw Facebook as, oh my gosh, a way to talk to people and like interact with people online. Cool. So I joined the Facebook and didn't really do much with it until I was running a youth ministry. And as part of that youth ministry, 2007, 2008, that was sort of peak Facebook for high schoolers, obviously. And, it was like the cool thing to do. So as a youth leader, I'm going, well, all the kids seem to be flocking here and they're talking about this. I need to learn this thing so that I can reach them. So I can reach my target audience, to use a business term that we throw around all the time. I started to learn the Facebook, and in 2009, I was sitting in a little conference room with a guy named Michael Hyatt, who was teaching about how blogging and social media were a great way to build yourself an online platform and grow an audience, and you can build a business very easily through those two platforms, and you're building a personal brand. So I made sense to me. Like, I just got it right away. I've always had like this technology disposition. Like I always took to technology pretty easily. So I signed up for Twitter in 2009 and been devouring every piece of information since. It was 2011 before I started my own professional blog, my personal blog, and just started writing about what I learned. Like I was using social media for a very specific purpose. I was trying to find my audience, the teenagers, right? At the time, I was trying to find a way to connect with them, invite them to our ministry, minister to them over the internet, which was totally revolutionary at that time. Like, share Jesus online. That's weird. But at the same time, I was growing a freelance web design and graphic design business. And as I'm writing these blog posts about what I'm discovering, what's working, how I'm growing my following, how I'm, using these social media apps differently and finding success on them, people started emailing me through my blog saying, "Hey, you seem to understand the social media thing. You think you could do it for my business?" And I was like, "Yeah, I guess so." And the natural next question that they would ask was, "Well, how much do you charge?" And then I realized, oh, shoot, I could charge for this. So before long, I started consulting and charging money for that. And yeah, long story short, people are inviting me to speak on stages, and I get to use my acting and performance and storytelling background on the medium of a stage and do presentations in that way. So it's been a pretty cool ride.
So in 2008, 2009, you're in the same room learning some things off of Michael Hyatt, and then you fast forward, and Michael Hyatt is actually interviewing you on certain things. Can you give us a little bit of a snippet on what exactly Michael Hyatt is asking you?
Yeah, that was an interesting email that I got one day. I woke up, I'm having my coffee. I'm expecting, client emails and stuff. And I get an email from John Meese, who is, at the time, he was the sort of second in command for Michael Hyatt in his Platform University school. And John was like, "Hey, Dustin, I've been a big fan for a long time. And I was talking with Michael, and he would really love to interview you. He'd like to fly you out to Nashville and interview you for Platform University and have you be one of the featured speakers." And I was like, "Is this a joke? Who sent this email?" Like, whose email is it? Oh, it's really John. Okay. And John and I kind of knew each other online a little bit. We crossed paths. But yeah, I mean, he was just updating some of his older content on Platform University, keeping things fresh. And instead of, him preaching to his audience the things that he may have already taught them, it's always a good idea to sort of validate that information and maybe get some insight that you yourself don't have time for. So, he just kind of invited me out and had a series of questions for me. And yeah, we did like a little mini masterclass on why social media is important, what the relevance is today, back in 2019, so a couple of years ago now. But yeah, it was pretty chill. Just, conversation about why social media, what are the, top trends, what's sort of the culture, where is it shifting, and that sort of thing. And it was mind-boggling. It was really mind-boggling to say, this is the guy that convinced me to join Twitter. And now he's asking me about Twitter.
That has to kind of be a little bit of a surreal moment for yourself. You're like, wait a second, I'm here right now.
Yeah, it was great. I'll never forget that. Michael's a great guy. They say, don't meet your idols, and Michael Hyatt's one of those people that totally blows that cliche out of the water. He's a great guy, great in person, very present, really just a wonderful host.
Fantastic. Folks, if you don't know who Michael Hyatt is, look him up. Great guy. Does a lot of stuff in the business world, a lot of stuff on leadership. I know there's a few people that are watching that love Michael Hyatt, so there's a shout out to them as well. But there was a question that came in, Dustin. I'm just going to ask you thoughts about the new Apple privacy for apps like Facebook and effects on the advertisers. Good question.
So I haven't been following that too closely, and the reason being, I've seen a lot of these things come and go. And most of them haven't been mainstream. A lot of these battles that these companies are having over privacy and the whole like data ownership thing, they've been fighting about it for years. I honestly, there's no way Apple is going to cut off Facebook in its app store, and they might make some more privacy restrictions, and maybe that'll be better than all of the data that they're gathering from us now. But ultimately, I think what it's going to come down to is Apple knows they can't boot Facebook off the App Store because too many people use it, and too many people would be angry if they could no longer access Facebook on their iPhones. So I think most of it is smoke and PR at this point, but I do think maybe there will be some very subtle, small changes as far as the privacy aspect and what data companies can gather from the apps on your phone.
Folks, if you do have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat or send us to them. I do have a few questions that I will get to later that people have sent in before. But let's get into this. I watched The Social Dilemma, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but you have 3 kids of your own. They're all young. Are you looking for there to be changes maybe in the near future about social media or social media usage? Or, I mean, are you, where do you think social media in the next let's just say 5 to 7 years is going to be? You think it's going to look very similar to now? Do you think there's going to be another big player that comes in that changes the whole entire game? I'd like to get your take on that and kind of make a projection about where it is going to be in 5 to 7 years.
Yeah, I think it's going to look a lot different in 5 to 10 years. You know, it's an industry that is constantly changing and it's constantly evolving. And I think the Gen Z that's coming up now, they look at social media in a very different way than, say, us millennials or older look at social media. We tend to be a little more open to you know, the idea of social media and sharing our lives on there. But these kids today, growing up, they see it a lot differently. They don't want something that kind of follows them around, and they don't you know, want things that are permanent on the internet. So I think just like, you know, the trend that Snapchat started with expiring content and not leaving any sort of digital tracks, I think that's going to continue. You know, Instagram stories is another example of expiring content that won't follow you around forever. If you share something stupid in Instagram stories, 5 years later, nobody's going to like dig it up, hopefully, and like hold it against you. So I think, you know, this idea of, you know, short form, very short shelf life content is going to evolve in many different ways. And I think it's going to be a lot more scrappy. It's gonna be less polished, where, you know, if you were around in the early days of Instagram, like, polished photos, even today still, are all over the place. But more and more these younger generations are sort of not impressed by how good your camera is or how good your video editing is. They want raw, they want authentic, they want something that looks like it was hacked together and not produced in a studio. And so, you know, you see TikTok and, you know, all the TikTok clones out there are sort of emulating and enabling this sort of content creation for people who just, they want it to feel a little more scrappy, a little less formal, and a little less polished. So I think that's kind of 5 years from now, that'll be in full swing. We'll really see what that evolves into. And I don't like predicting too far into the future, because things are just, they change in such interesting ways. Like, who would have thought that after the live streaming revolution that came out of the Meerkat app and the Periscope app and now Instagram Live, like, all of a sudden the new thing right now is audio, just straight audio. And that's the new trend that's coming out. We got Clubhouse that is everyone's talking about. Now Twitter's got a Clubhouse clone that they're trying out. Like, who would have predicted all this emphasis on video? Now we're back to audio. Okay, sure, why not?
You never know. I mean, okay, let's go back in time. All right, somebody's writing a letter. All right, and then they get a phone, they can speak. And then all of a sudden, now you can text. Okay, well, why the heck would you text when you can just call? You know, I vividly remember when I was I was in 8th grade, and my father gets the bill from my Motorola Razr phone for $28.10 for 10 cents texting to and from. He gives me the bill. He's like, Sean, you got to pay this, man. And I was like, why does nobody else text? We don't text. The Zip-By family doesn't text. And I'm like, so I pay the bill, and I'm the idiot of the family because I'm sending text messages. Like, what an idiot. And then now, you got Snapchat. With Snapchat, okay, it's great. It's videos and pictures, but now you can chat within Snapchat. I mean, it's just a never-ending pendulum, right?
Yeah. Things are always changing, always.
And so let me take you to this, because we do have some small business and business owners watching, and eventually people will when I post these in some other platforms. Give me a little bit of advice for the not just for the startup, but for a business within the social media realm that's like, hey, you know what? We have them, but maybe we're just running them. We don't have a specific person doing all of it that's an expert. Would you give just a kind of a hint of maybe your take on what exactly they should be focusing on.
Yeah, and this is a really common question. And the very first thing the question you need to answer, any business, and this, when people come to me for consulting, we sit down, they pay me a large sum of money to ask them this exact question, this series of questions. First I go, who is your target audience? Who are you looking to find? Who's your ideal customer that you want to connect with and make sure that they become die-hard fans of your business? Who are they? And if they can't tell me with extreme specificity who that target audience is, I tell them I can't help you. Flat out. If your target audience is men and women ages 18 to 95, I can't help you. I cannot help you find those people because there's no strategy to reaching those people. Pick one target audience. We want to reach 20-somethings who are just entering their professional career. Something like that. It has to be so specific because every social platform lends itself to a different culture and a different demographic. So, if you're targeting men ages 45 to 60, you're not going to try Pinterest, right? You're not going to waste any time on Pinterest because those guys aren't there. Likewise, if you're targeting, retirees, you're not going to go on Reddit and waste money on Reddit advertising. You're not going to do that. So you first have to understand who is our target audience. Who do we want to find online and turn into raving fans? Once you know that, though, that question is what allows you to say, now we can go to Instagram or Facebook. Like, exactly what networks you can. I mean, you'll probably have to do a little bit of research, but the audience determines the where the effort goes. And once you know that, I would say limit it to 1 or 2 social networks. For most small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses who don't have a dedicated social media person, they should always limit it to 1 or 2 networks. And the reason for that is because it's better to go deep than to go wide. It's a cliche saying, a mile wide and an inch deep, but it's really, really important to go deep on social media. You want to not only be posting regularly, but you want to be posting content on these networks that is native, that looks and feels like it was made for that platform. You don't want to create one great tweet and then broadcast it to Facebook and Instagram and Tumblr and Reddit, the same exact thing, because those cultures are very, very different. And they're going to see what you're doing, and you're going to lose their respect because it's not for them. They can tell it's not for them. They can tell that you're giving them just a generic, generalized message, and it's going to do more harm than good. So I would say pick one network to start. Do really freaking good at that network, and do it daily. Do it every single day. The same cadence. The same exact consistency. Build relationships with those people. These people who are following you, commenting, liking, they're not just numbers on a page. They're real human beings who could be buying your products and services. So do everything you can to build relationships and to build that trust through consistent posting on that platform.
Folks, we're on the zip code with Dustin Stout. I'm going to call him a social media icon. Thank you to Sheets. Thank you to Lem's Shoes. Dustin, let me ask you this. You have 3 young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to keep them from any social media platform, or are you going to say, have at it?
Not at all. So my goal is to teach my kids, when they're ready. Right now they're 9, 7, and 4. So my 9-year-old, he's probably getting close to being, in fact, he's figured out how to use chat forums on like these online PBS games that he's been playing. And I had to be like, whoa, wait, okay, let's talk about this. I would rather educate than restrict because I love social media. I do it for a living. I know the great benefits that it can, the great doors and benefits that it can open. So I would never restrict my kids from those opportunities to build relationships. In fact, every single successful business and unsuccessful business that I've started was through relationships that I found on social media. So I would never close them off to those opportunities, but I will be very intentional about how I educate them about the good and the bad, the pros and the cons. Social media can be very negative, very toxic, and you have to be ready for that. You have to be guarded against it. And you have to know how to sort of protect yourself from the dangers of being online. So I think as a parent, it's my job to really just educate and hope that they make the best decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and if they're not educated, I mean, like you said, I think at the end of the day, if you just say, hey, don't do that, and that goes for anything in life, then someone's going to be very intrigued. Why can't I do that? But
Yeah.
the parental units need to educate, and then at the end of the day, the kids make informed decisions on what they learn. But anytime somebody's just said, hey, don't do that, there's always the human mind that says, well, why not? And so
Right.
when I was watching
Yeah.
the Social Dilemma, just like thinking about a lot of things that are happening, it's just because people are uneducated about it. Is really what it comes down to, and it takes self-control, and that's with anything in life.
I'm just gonna turn my light on here because the sun's starting to set, and it's gonna get dark.
Yeah, you are in California, 3 hours behind us, my friend.
Yeah, it's probably pitch black where you are right now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to get to one other point. You mentioned TikTok, and obviously everybody, knows about TikTok now. It's going berserk. Have a lot of businesses been able to convert TikTok videos and things they're doing on TikTok to, just from video users to consumer? I mean, have they been able to convert anything, or is that still mostly Instagram and Facebook, or should they spend some time on TikTok if they're looking at Generation Z and some millennials?
So I can't speak to that specifically, and I never like to speak to things that I haven't actually tried or tested myself. I'm not a big fan of TikTok just because it's not my style and it's not where my audience is. So I've sort of steered clear. I've browsed TikTok, and I have some friends who are kind of diving deep into it. One of them is a big-time YouTuber, and he's loving TikTok right now, and he's also been a stand-up comedian. So TikTok is really more of an entertainment platform than anything else. And if you can be entertaining, if you can be funny or silly or stupid, you can do really well on TikTok, which is why it's not great for a lot of businesses. But I'm sure there are plenty of business cases out there where they've converted some new customers by making silly, fun videos go viral. But personally, I can't speak to it. I can't say that I have. And I don't have any data on that, but I'm sure it's possible. Let me put it this way. Any network where there are people who are your ideal customer can be effective. It's just whether or not are you capable of delivering content in the way that they want to consume it on that platform. Many people thought years ago that this goofy network called Google Plus was a failure, that nobody was on it, that it was just dumb. I met my first business partners on Google Plus. I made my first customers on Google Plus. In fact, Ralph Rivera, who joined the video, I don't know if he's still watching. He's my business partner now in a new venture. I met him on Google Plus back in 2012 to 14, somewhere around there. And it was this obscure social network where there's nothing but marketers and SEO people, and it's made me a great deal of money, despite the fact that most people would say that social platform was a failure from the beginning. So any network can work as long as your target audience is there.
You are on the Zip Code with Dustin Stout. Folks, we're going to get into the favorite segment of the show. Dustin, this is called the rapid fire round, man. I don't even think I warned you about this.
Ooh, you didn't.
All I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask you random questions, and I just need you to give me whatever comes to the top of mind, okay?
Okay.
All right. Rapid fire round. Dustin Stout. Social media, blogger, icon. Here we go. If you could only use one social media platform right now, which would you choose?
Twitter.
Favorite food?
Oh, you cut out. Favorite what?
Favorite food?
Tacos.
Favorite thing about the Shenango Valley?
Oh, the Quaker Steak and Lube.
East Coast or West Coast?
West Coast, obviously.
Favorite musical?
Oh, favorite musical. Wicked.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you miss eating sheets?
I'd give it a solid 7.
That's solid. We'll take that. We'll keep you on the show. Favorite sport to watch?
UFC. MMA.
Favorite sport to play?
Basketball.
Favorite movie?
Oh, that's a tough one. Avengers Endgame.
If you can go back in time to one moment of your life.
Sorry, I was getting another call. If I could go back to one moment in my life, what would it be? Senior year of high school.
Favorite vacation spot?
Oh, that's a hard one. San Diego.
Hamburgers or hot dogs?
Oh, hamburgers. I'm about to go have one for my birthday right now.
Favorite child? No, I'm kidding. Let's go with this. Favorite car you've ever drove?
Oh, Tesla Model S. Oh, my life has never been the same since driving that car.
Do you have a Tesla Model S?
Not yet. That's goals.
And last but not least, this may be the most important question I ask you on the zip code. Where will the zip code be in 5 years?
Probably out here on the West Coast, broadcasting out of a beautiful studio with a brand new chain of Sheetz stores in the local area.
One can dream, Dustin. One can dream, man.
Yes.
And with that, you are off the rapid fire out of the zip code. Hey, that was a decent job.
I want to change my answer. Batman: The Dark Knight. That's my favorite movie. The Dark Knight.
So, if I remember correctly, when you were younger, did people call you Batman or did you just love Batman?
I loved Batman, and people call me Batman. In fact, to this day, there are several Starbucks in the area and other food places that know me as Batman because when they ask for my name, I say Batman.
So they put that on your cup?
They put that on my cup. They put it on my to-go order. Whenever they ask a name, I say Batman. And you can see right here, Batman.
There it is.
Batman.
Wow. Some of the things I remember from my childhood, man. Unbelievable. So let me we got about 10 minutes left. Let me dive into this, or have you dive into it. Your latest venture, So Visual Company. Tell me what the heck So Visual Co. is.
Ooh, that's a tough question because I started So Visual Co. At the beginning of 2019. At the beginning of 2019, I really had it in my mind that I wanted to help gyms. At the time I was really getting into CrossFit. And so I noticed that most gyms have really terrible marketing. Like they just tend to suck at marketing, social media marketing in particular. So I wanted to create a way that gyms could easily access social content that they can publish to their social media feeds with minimal effort and be able to grow their followings and reach an audience that they needed to keep their businesses alive. At that time, there were several CrossFit gyms in my area in Bakersfield that had shut down because they couldn't keep the doors open. And this was 2019, pre-pandemic. So I thought I could create a product that they can go on, get the content they need, and grow their audiences and grow their businesses. So I did that 2019. Turns out the fact that gyms are so bad at social media marketing, they need so much education as to why they need to be good at it that it ended up being a failing product. I just couldn't get enough businesses, gyms, to buy. It was a subscription product, so it was like a monthly payment that they had to pay. I couldn't get enough to make it profitable. So I ended up spending $15,000, $20,000 on this project of my own money, and it never brought in a return on investment. So 2020 comes around and I had to pivot. So I then pivoted to, instead of targeting gyms, we were creating these social content packs or bundles for mostly for social media managers. So people who are working for the small businesses and they don't have a huge budget, and maybe they're not a graphic designer, but they know they need graphics. We created these ready-to-go packs for social media managers, and that ended up being a much more profitable idea. Still not quite profitable enough, still had this barrier to entry that I felt was a little bit too high. It was still hard for people to get these graphics and to modify the things they need to modify. It still took time. Even though it took a lot less time than coming up with everything from scratch, it still required a little bit of effort. So we're currently in the process of making another pivot. We're pivoting to a different kind of product that I can't say too much about right now because it's still in the early stages of development. But we've spec'd out a very aggressive roadmap for the product. And, a year from now, it'll be, without being too hypey, it's going to completely change the industry. So I really believe it's going to be an absolute game changer when it comes to digital content creation, specifically visual graphic content, graphic design content creation on the internet for businesses, for social media managers, and even for influencers and personal brands. We're creating a product that is truly going to revolutionize the entire industry. And,
very interesting. And so what
I'm
you're
excited
telling me
about
is,
it.
in about a year to 2 years or so, the zip code is still running, and then you get to come back on the show, and then we get to reference this moment and say, hey,
Yes.
This is exactly what you were talking about.
Absolutely. 100%.
Love it. All right, so we got about 6 minutes left. I do want to ask you about that. I see a lot of social media influencers now, and I guess to be an influencer, I mean, you can have a small following and call yourself an influencer. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So do you find that for a lot of branding, for a lot of companies, for a lot of simple messaging, that is a very easy way to just get some social media influencers? Or do you think that's, does that become a little bit of a crowded space, so to speak? Like, oh, now we got to give away product to all these people. That's all they want. They're showing off. We got to figure out promo codes, all that stuff. What's your take on that for a small business?
So for small businesses in particular, one of the best routes to go, I mean, really you have to step back and take a look at what is social media really. When you use it for marketing purposes, what is what's the purpose? The purpose is word of mouth advertising. Advertising that goes beyond, having to spend $1 for every eyeball, right? Banner ads, they cost money. Billboards, they cost money. Newspaper ads, they cost money. So you're going to spend your marketing budget somewhere to get the eyeballs you need on your products, your services, your business. What we've been seeing, the trends in the industry is businesses utilizing what we call micro influencers. Micro influencer isn't the Kim Kardashian. They're not the the Kanye West million follower celebrity. They're people who they create content on a regular basis. People tend to love them. They flock to them. Maybe they have a few thousand followers, but they have truly cultivated an audience that loves hearing from them and will take their recommendations. And that essentially is a potential gold mine for a small business who has not much recognition yet or is looking to break into new markets or break into new segments. micro influencers can be a huge deal because you're basically, I mean, think back in the day when, Michael Jordan was on a Wheaties box, right? That was influencer marketing. They're using somebody else's celebrity to to get their product in front of more people. They're, in a sense, borrowing that person's audience to get their product in front of them. And so it's highly effective. And while it is getting more and more crowded because everybody wants to be an influencer on Instagram in particular, there are tools out there emerging for businesses to find these micro influencers. There's whole databases and systems out there where you can do a search for influencers on specific topics or in specific niches to get your product out there. So while it is kind of gimmicky and everybody and their mother is an influencer now, there are plenty of ways and plenty of legitimate reasons to use influencers, particularly micro influencers, to get your message out there. And you don't always have to give them free product. You send a micro influencer $1,000 and give them a few easy taglines to share, and it could turn into a lot of money.
So we got about 2.5, 3 minutes. I want to end with this, Dustpan. I want you to, somebody watch this whole show and they say, all right, I want a couple simple nuggets about what the heck I should be doing for my business on social media. What would you tell that person?
A few tidbits. Be consistent. That's really the key. The key to unlocking any marketing channel is consistency. And if you can be consistent, then you can test and you can monitor and you can see what results you're getting, and you can do more of what works and do less of what doesn't. Consistency more than anything is important, which is why we created the products for gyms, so they can be consistent, which is why we're creating this new product so you can be consistent and create content on a regular basis. More than anything else, being consistently in front of people is what grows your brand online and what grows your business offline.
You heard it here, folks. And in a couple years, whenever this guy comes back on the show, we will figure out what the heck he's doing then and what he couldn't reveal to us on the zip code, but he did hint it. So, I mean, I'm sure you've hinted at this project other places as well, but you did hint at some things on the zip code. So it could be breaking news, Dustpan.
It could be. It very well could be.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show, man. Folks, thank you for watching. Dustin, also, happy birthday to you, my friend.
Thank you. Shout out to Janer Bestwick. I love you, man.
Shout out to Janer Bestwick, everybody else in the Shenango Valley that watched this. Hope you guys learned some things. And Dustin, thanks for coming on the show, man. I do think you're the only one that has ever come on their birthday. So that is a special landmark for the zip code. Dustin Stout. Winning, folks. Go get some red shirts. Go get some red V-necks. Dustin, hope you'll be a friend of the show in the future, man. Thank you to Sheets. Thank you to Lebs. Hey, we will talk to you soon. As always, I love you, Shenango Valley. Dustin, catch you later, man.
You too, brother. Thanks.